What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and this is my full hands-on review of the UMI C1. Now you may not have heard of this device before, but this is basically a budget device which retails for roughly about $170. So that's very cheap, and it's definitely on the affordable side of the price scale. So how does this device perform? Let's find out in this full review. Now kicking off with what you get inside the box, very simple, slim box that you've got here, and it comes with a slim micro USB to USB cable as well as your power adapter. Now, this is a 2-pin power adapter, and then you've got the device itself. So having a quick look around the device, at the front you've got a 5.5-inch screen, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. You've got your front-facing camera and your earpiece above the screen, and below the screen is where you've got your capacitive off-screen buttons. Now on the top of the device is where you've got a micro USB input, so this is at the top rather than at the bottom, so this is something a little bit different to what you traditionally might find. And there's also a 3.5mm headphone jack. On the left hand side of the device is where you've got your power button. Now once again, this is on the left hand side rather than on the right hand side, which I'm sure most people will be used to. But this is actually quite a nice touch, because when you've got it in your hand, because this is a 5.5-inch device, then it kind of fits just where your thumb is. So I quite like this touch. It did take some time to get used to, but it wasn't bad after a bit. On the right hand side is where you've got your volume rocker, and at the bottom is a mic and nothing else. At the back is where you've got your 13-megapixel rear-facing camera as well as your LED flash, and at the bottom of the back is where you've got your speaker. Now this device does have a removable back, so when you remove the back you are presented with your removable battery, 2 SIM card slots, so 1 full-size SIM card slot as well as 1 micro SIM card slot. So this does support dual SIM cards, and there is a MicroSD expansion slot as well. Now, it goes without saying that this looks very much like the Samsung Galaxy S5. You've got that perforated dimple soft touch back, which is quite nice actually. I think they've done this deliberately to appeal to many users out there. Samsung is a very popular brand, and this is something that a lot of people would have been used to seeing, so I think they've done this deliberately. And it's actually quite nice. You've got that soft touch back which does not attract fingerprints, and is also quite comfortable to hold in the hand. At the front is where you've got a metal frame, so this does feel quite solid in the hand, and it feels quite nice because of that metal frame. So it's not a plastic frame, you've actually got a metal frame around the front of the device, so definitely a nice build overall. In terms of the overall size, it's very similar to other 5.5-inch smartphones. Here it is side by side with the OnePlus One. As you can see, it's very similar in size, it's just very slightly larger in terms of width and height, not too much of a difference here. Now looking at the screen, you've got a 5.5-inch LTPS display with a 720p HD resolution, so that's 1280 by 720, and that works out to roughly about 267 ppi pixel density. So because it's not above 300, it's not as sharp as some of the flagships out there, but it's not too bad overall. I didn't really find it too bad, and because this is a larger device, you might not be holding it too close to yourself anyway. Now the quality of the screen wasn't too bad. It can seem a tad washed out at times, but generally speaking it was pretty good overall. Now performance wise, you've got a quad-core 1.3 GHz processor with the Mali 400 GPU and 1GB of RAM. Now these are not the best specs out there, and the benchmarks are not going to be as high as some of the other flagships out there, but this does come down to the price. You have some decent specs at this price, and performance wise overall I found it pretty good. I didn't have any problems opening and closing apps and multitasking. It was okay overall, and here you can see I'm playing Dead Trigger 2, which is a very graphically intensive game, and you can see that it's running pretty smooth without any issues. So I definitely think for most users out there, you shouldn't have a problem for your day-to-day usage. Now memory, you've got 16GB of onboard storage. Out of that, it's just over 13GB of usable storage, but you do have expandable memory. So you've got MicroSD Card Slot, which supports up to 32GB. So that's great to see that you're not going to be stuck with what you have on the device. You can expand the storage on here. The cameras, you've got a 13-megapixel rear-facing camera, and this actually produced some nice results in good light. Here are a few example shots that I took outdoors, and as you can see, we've got some decent colors with a good amount of detail. And now here's a close-up shot that I had to get quite up close and personal for, and almost risked getting stung for, so a thumbs up for that would be appreciated. But as you can see, when we zoom in 100%, we are getting some nice details. Now the autofocus wasn't as fast as what I'm used to, so it did take about a second to autofocus, but I think that was expected. Now in terms of video, you can film at up to 1080p. Once again, the results were pretty good. Autofocus, I found you do have to touch to focus in order to get the best focus. Relying on the autofocus of the camera can be a little bit slow at times. The front facing camera, you've got a 3.2 megapixel front facing camera, which is okay. Now I would have liked this to be a little bit more wide angle. You do have to hold it quite back in order to get everything fitted in. The quality wise, it's not too bad and it should be okay for your selfies. Now in terms of video, this only films at 480p, so not 720p. 720p HD would have been nice, but I guess they had to make a cutback somewhere, and you do only have 480p here. Now the operating system, this does come with Android KitKat 4.4.2, so this is great to see that you've got a very recent version of Android. Now this is slightly customized, nothing hugely noticeable, very close to stock Android. You do get two launchers on here, so you've got Launcher 3, which is very close to stock Android, but you also have UMI Launcher. Now this is very similar to Color OS, so if there are any Color OS fans out there, you're going to be able to get that sort of experience on here. But personally speaking, I do like stock Android more, so I did find myself using Launcher 3. The good thing about this is you can switch between these launchers when and as you please, so that's quite a nice touch here. And because you do have KitKat on here, you do have your KitKat features. So for example, you have a built-in emoji keyboard, and you can also say OK Google from any of the home screens, which will take you to Google now. OK Google, what's the weather like tomorrow?
Tomorrow's forecast for LE5, UK is 18 degrees with a chance of rain.
So as I did mention earlier in the video, this device does have two SIM card slots. One micro SIM card slot which supports GSM, and a full-size SIM card slot which supports WCDMA. Now what this basically means is that the micro SIM card slot will allow you to have 2G, so that's going to be GPRS and Edge, whereas the full-size SIM card slot will support 3G, so that's 3G and HSPA and HSPA Plus. Now the great thing about this is that you can have both SIMs active at the same time, and you'll have two reception bars at the top. This will be especially useful if you're roaming, and if you do want to make a call, then you can select which SIM card you want to do that from, or you can set up a default as well. Now because this device only supports 2G and 3G, you're not going to be getting 4G LTE on here. I know that's going to be a concern for some, but I know for a lot of you who don't have 3G support in your areas anyway, and for others who are on 3G contracts, it shouldn't be much of a big deal. Now one other thing to bear in mind as well is that for me here in the UK, I had to manually enter my data settings from my network provider. These weren't set up automatically, so that's just something that you might have to do, an extra step initially that you might have to take. Now in terms of the battery, you've got a 2430 mAh battery which is removable, so you can carry around a spare or replace it altogether as well, which is a good touch. Now in terms of usage, I actually got some decent usage out of this. I got a full day, roughly about 4 hours of on-screen time on medium use, so it should get most users through the day, I'd say. If you are a heavy user, then you may need a top up or have to carry around a spare. Now finally, looking at the price of this device, which is definitely the key selling point here, $170 or roughly about 130 euros. So this is very much on the affordable side of things. Works out roughly over £100, I think. You're gonna have to go and check out your own exchange rates wherever you're from. Now in terms of availability, this is a pre-production model that I've got here. This will be available very, very soon. The website is going to be going live. The English version of the website is going to be going live, I'd say, about a week from this video. So when you're watching this, this already may be available, and I will be leaving a link in the description below, so do go ahead and check that out, and that will give you more details about your delivery costs and things, so you can go ahead and work those out. So there we have it, the UMI C1. Overall, I think this is an absolutely great device for the price. I mean, some of the features are not up there with some of the flagships out there, but then again, you're paying roughly about a quarter of the price of some of the other flagships out there. I mean, in terms of value for money, you are getting a lot on this device for the price that you're paying. What do you think of the UMI C1? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time. If you want to see more regular videos like this one, then be sure to hit the subscribe button, which will be below. If you're on a mobile device, it may be somewhere else. If you want to see my previous related video, then hit the link right here. If you want to stay in touch over Facebook, Twitter and Google+, then all of the addresses will be there somewhere, as well as direct links in the description below. Okay, if you're still watching, then that means you've not done one of those things, so, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna go downstairs. See. Okay. There isn't really a downstairs. Anyway, so yeah.